Hello friends, it's April 2nd, 2020. We're in New York City, Long Island City, Queens, in the middle of this COVID lockdown here in New York City. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a tour of this garden real quick and a little DIY on making some soilless potting soil for your gardens. It's really important that we keep ourselves grounded during these times. So I just want to give some context of where we're at, what's going on in the garden. We have some nice things happening here. Spring is in bloom. It's time to start seeds. We've got some collards and other greens that have wintered over. They're already going to seed, or they're flowering, so they'll go to seed soon. We've started some seeds for this season's greens here. Lots of daffodils coming up. Our peach tree is in blossom. Lots of different trees are in blossom. We're not going to go all the way back to the back today. Just want to give you a little idea of what's going on here in the garden. You know, it's the end of winter, the beginning of spring, and spring is sprung. There's lots of little stuff happening. So it's exciting to be here. I'm here by myself today. You know, there was a couple other members here earlier. They were working actually across the street, planting a little tree in a street pit. And I was just doing some little things here. We had way more than 6 feet between us. We're doing the whole social distancing. This is a little cold frame that we have set up. You can see down in here we have some pots with seedlings, not yet come up, but you know, we're letting them warm there. It's a little station by the compost station. I'm going to be teaching you guys a little bit about some seed mixes. Yeah, lots and lots of daffodils down by the street. Lots of beautiful flowers coming on the trees. We have some peach trees and plum trees down there. So we're going to come up here and I'm going to go ahead and get this going. I don't do a whole lot of these videos, but you know, I'm kind of called to share some information and knowledge that I have and that I've been collecting here in my noggin for a long time. I hope you can hear me still. The phone's over there. I'm just recording on my phone today. I'm going to introduce you to some materials. And we're going to put some, I have a wheelbarrow right here. We're going to put some of these materials into the wheelbarrow. There's different recipes that we can use to make things like seed starting mix, plant mix, soilless mix for like cactus and succulents. It takes more sand. I'm not going to go too into depth about the different types of mixes, but today we're going to be making kind of like an all-purpose general potting mix. I don't have vermiculite or perlite right now, so I'm just going to use what I have, and I'm going to tell you about some of it. So the first thing that we're going to start off with is this beautiful, oh no, my phone blew down from the area that I had it propped on. Let's try that again. Hopefully we won't get 2 more gusts like that. I'll relocate my brick there. So we have this beautiful compost that, you know, this is rich, dark compost. I feel like train across the street here. This compost is nice, firms up real good, clumps up, but then falls apart really easily. That's a good sign of compost. This is sifted compost, so there's not a lot of big chunks in here. I'm actually going to move this whole setup just a little bit closer to you guys, so maybe you can see some of these things more nicely. Yeah, here we go. So, we've got this compost. This has been sitting out for a while. It's not really wet. It's a good dryness, moisture. It's moist enough to clump together like that. That's a really good sign of compost, but then crumble apart. So I've got about four gallons here in this 5-gallon bucket, and I'm going to use all of this compost today. I'm going to dump that right in. Okay. And our next ingredient is going to be the sphagnum peat moss. Peat moss comes from like frozen areas in like Ireland and Canada. It's not the most sustainable product that you can use. It takes a long time for peat moss to be made. It's really stable though, and it absorbs a lot of moisture. And it's not really nutrient dense, but that's what the compost was for, to add our nutrients into here. The sphagnum peat moss really adds some texture, and it's very light, and it's going to really absorb a lot of moisture whenever we get in here. So I'm going to bring this a little bit closer so you can see this sphagnum peat moss. It's pretty dry, and when I squeeze this, it does not hold its form. Of course, when we get it wet, it can absorb about 3 times its own weight, actually more than that, of its own weight in moisture. And we're going to use about an equal amount of this. So we're going to use about 4 gallons of this as well. And each one of these scoops is about half a gallon. So I'm just going to do about 8 of these scoops. Sphagnum peat moss is really easy to find at your garden centers throughout the US. Another thing that you could use instead of this is called coconut coir. And coconut coir is a little bit more difficult to come by, but it's got a little bit more nutrients in it, and I think that's 6 scoops. Trying to talk and count at the same time is pretty difficult sometimes. I think this is about 8, so that we'll just give it one more to grow on. Why not? The thing about sphagnum peat moss is that it's got an acidic pH, so a little bit, we want to try to balance that a little bit. And what I'm going to do to balance that is I'm going to add just a little bit of garden lime. Garden lime can be found, you know, this is a popular brand, Espoma, but you know, you don't have to get this brand or anything. There's lots of different places you can get this. There's a couple different types of garden limes. Either one of them is fine for this application. We put about 4 gallons of sphagnum peat moss in there, so I'm just going to add, you know, maybe about a half a cup of this garden lime. I'm just going to eyeball it here. Nothing too crazy. But I'm gonna let you guys take a little look at there. This is the garden lime, and this will help even out. This makes the pH a little bit more basic, so it's important to add that whenever using sphagnum peat moss to even out your pH. Another thing that we're going to use today is some decomposed mulch. This is wood mulch that has been sitting for a while, and you can see it's pretty crumbled up and decomposed here. This is just a little bit moist and wet, but very small shreds, starting to turn back into soil even. Just a little bit more work with the decomposers, and this will be a nice rich compost soil. But this is, you know, this has got a lot of lignin in it. And you want to add more of this if you're making a potting soil for like trees or shrubs, and a little bit less of it for vegetable crops. So today I'm just going to use a couple scoops of this, maybe a gallon or so. I'm going to add that in there. And I'm really adding this to lighten it up. Ideally I would have some vermiculite or some perlite right now, but I don't have either of those things. So this is going to help add texture and porosity to the soil. Another really great thing that you could use for instead of that would be biochar, which I won't talk too much about. And just, you know, I don't think we really need much sand. This is just some play sand, actually, some coarse sand. It's got a few chunks of wood chips in it and whatnot. That's fine. And this, you want to use this more if you're making like a seedling mix or something for cacti or succulents or things that don't like a whole lot of water on their roots. This helps drain, and it adds a little bit of weight too. Not any many nutrients or anything with the soil, but I'm gonna go ahead and just add 1 scoop of this just to add a little coarse graininess to this mixture. All right. Now I have a couple other special things that I can pull out and talk about here just a little bit before we end the video. So people bring us stuff to the garden pretty often. I don't even know where most of this stuff came from, but this is a soil activator. It's actually got some microbes and different nutrients in it. It says that it's guaranteed microorganisms of Bacillus subtilis, Bacillus amylorqualifaciens, and Pseudomonas monteili. So I don't know where this came from. It looks like it is packaged for this year, so that's cool. But I'm gonna take this that says to add this whole package for you know, a couple cubic yards of soil, which is what we're making. So I'm gonna open this up and I'm gonna add this whole thing. It's good to have live microorganisms in your soil. I'll let you guys take a look at what this is like a brown, really fine powder. It looks like red clay, as a matter of fact. So I'm gonna just take that whole thing and I'm gonna dump it here into the soil. And I have a couple other things to take a look at. Sometimes you want to add like a natural fertilizer into your soil. This can be done with bone meals, blood meals, feather meals, all sorts of different natural things that are mostly animal or seaweed derived. The only things I really have in the tool pod right now, I've pulled out just to show you a little bit of. We've got some bone meal powder, and we'll take a little bit of a look at this. I'm just gonna add a slight little bit of that. It's a nice chalky powder that's gonna add a lot of nutrients, calcium, of course, you know, everything that comes from the bone meal. A lot of these nutritive additives are byproducts of our agricultural system, our farming system. You know, if you know about the way that we grow animals, oftentimes the byproducts are bones and feathers, even blood. So you take those things and you can grind them up or dewater them, and you end up with powders that you can add to your soil. You know, back in the day, I guess indigenous folks and even later than that would just use the guts or the offal of an animal and bury it in the pit sometime before they planted their crops out in the spring. But this is just a different way of doing that, using the manufacturing system of our food systems as a crutch. So we might have to go back to looking at the older ways, but right now we have some of these powdered. This is seabird guano, like the poop of animals, especially animals that don't eat meat, are often very useful and beneficial. This is pelletized. It looks like rabbit food. I'm just going to add a little bit of this to the mix here. Yep, little pellets of that. And there's another. This one is a pro-organic plant food. It says that it's derived from castor meal and rice flour. So we're gonna open this up and see what it's all about. It says it's all organic. It has some really good nutrients in it for the plants. Somebody, I don't know who, dropped about 4 bags of this stuff off to the garden over the winter. So we'll just go ahead and mix some of this into our potting mix as well. This is a little bit darker pelletized material. Yeah, so we'll just pop those right in. And then the last thing that I really wanted to mention to you was if you're doing propagation, they sell these rooting powders. These are really good if you're taking cuttings from a plant that lives and you're trying to put it into a substrate. You can take that cutting and dip it into this rooting powder, and it really helps it out a lot. Another thing that you can do is you can take the bark or a little bit of a branch of a willow tree, a weeping willow or any kind of a willow tree, and you can break it up into water, and you can use that to water any new cuttings that you have, and that can be helpful in creating roots for that new thing that you're trying to grow. But this is basically a similar thing. One other thing that you can do actually is take aspirin, which uses the same active ingredient to heal your headaches. You can crush that up in a little piece of water, in a little cup of water, and you can use that to water your new cuttings. So what we'll do now is we're just gonna take our shovel here and mix this up really good. Woo, that wind is really kicking up, y'all. I'm glad that I fixed the phone a little bit earlier so that it wouldn't fall over again. I wish that I had some vermiculite perlite for this, but unfortunately I don't. If I was feeling a little bit more comfortable around crowds, I might have gone to the garden center and picked some up before this, but I think this is okay. Still got just a little bit. I can see some of this on the bottom. All right, that's looking pretty good. I'll just get a little scoop and let you guys see what's going on here. So now we have a nice fluffy, nice texture to that to our potting soil that we can use. You can see little bits of our fertilizers. You can almost see the granular sand and the really nice stuff going on in there. What I might want to do is take some really fresh compost that still has lots of microbial life and even some worms and other microorganisms in it, and add that in right before I transfer to my pots. So that's it, guys. I just wanted to make a little video. I think, again, it's really important for us to bring seeds into our homes during this time when we're sheltering in place. If you can't make a potting mix like this, you can find this oftentimes just at your grocery store, definitely at garden centers. Home improvement stores with garden centers will have a potting mix. They'll even have packages of seeds that you can pick up. I know a lot of you that might be watching this don't have a yard. You might be living in urban centers. Even if you don't have a place to put these plants out, I really encourage you to start seeds. Start growing plants right in your home with you. The process of growing plants and understanding the life cycle of the plant people and understanding what it takes to nurture a seed, a little nugget of life into this world, and watching it grow can be very healing. I know it's done a bunch of healing for me personally, and I've seen it heal other people and help people get over certain obstacles in their life just by slowing down enough to understand plants in that way. So starting seeds, even if you're not going to be able to see them through their entire life cycle, starting some seeds in your house, you can start like some seeds are great for cutting as sprouts and eating as microgreens. They have beautiful energy that they can give to your body. And you can work with these plants as medicine, as preventative medicine, instead of the sick care that we have right now. I'm not going to get into all these things. I'm trying to represent Smiling Hogs Head Ranch, not my own personal thoughts and beliefs. But here at Smiling Hogs Head Ranch, we work to connect people and communities through ecology. And one of the first steps to be connected through ecology is actually to learn about plants. The best way to do that, in my opinion, is start to grow them. If you have houseplants at home, get yourself some rooting hormone and start taking cuttings of those plants, or just cut them without the rooting hormone and put them in water and see what happens. If you have seeds laying around, please try to get them started. It's that time of the year. It's really important for us right now to recenter and ground ourselves. It's springtime. Show the earth a little bit of love. Show yourself a little bit of love. Breathe, meditate, sing to your plants, talk to your plants, you know, like be with the plants right now, and try to take them, just the simple act of growing them, as a little bit of medicine for you and your lives. Something to share with the young people in your lives, maybe even taking pictures every once in a while and documenting some scientific process. You know, you can start one seed mix and a second seed mix and make them a little bit different and see how they treat your seeds. Starting a fruiting seed versus a leafy green seed and see what happens. A big bean seed versus a little basil seed and see how that goes. There's all sorts of fun things to do with seeds, so I really encourage you, get out there, or don't, if you don't want to go outside, don't get out there, but like do this indoors. Bring plants close to you. So blessings, peace, and light to all of you watching. Thank you for tuning in. All our best from Smiling Hogshead Ranch out to your homes. Ciao, we'll see you next time.